Yeah, so long story short, I was really pushing this last Congress, and I was pretty surprised that there didn't seem to be a massive appetite to push this. I mean, it got a lot of good press, but when it was introduced, you just didn't see a lot of my colleagues wanting to jump on board in regards to fighting this specifically, which I thought was interesting. And then President Trump actually started talking about it on the campaign trail right before his election. So now that President Trump has really, I think, taken this issue and elevated it, I think that there's a lot more support for it. And I actually had mentioned it and brought it up to him when I was with him over the weekend at dinner. And, we can't pass something like this by executive order because it would, in many cases, raise the mandatory minimums for some of these crimes. And so it has to be done through Congress first. And so I think an issue like this specifically, we know, especially with what happened under Joe Biden's administration with the open door policies, we know that there's a lot of people that have been impacted, specifically women and specifically children, which is unfortunate. But the unfortunate truth is the United States has a very big problem with child pornography, sex trafficking, and then also crimes against children and women especially. So for me specifically, this is a very personal issue. It's very something that I've really had at the foundation of what I ran on for Congress, and then also too, even before I got into politics as an activist. And so I'm hoping that this gets traction, that it passes, and then it will eventually be signed into law by President Trump. I think people look at it because in some cases we are asking for the death penalty, right? Or a mandatory sentence of either a life in prison, death penalty. But in general, right now, for example, some states might only give a couple of years if you've raped a child, which is, in my opinion, completely wrong. I think that some people will look at the death penalty as, maybe we shouldn't be doing it. But again, in my opinion, you cannot rehabilitate a predator. And as you saw walking in, I actually have an informational wall on these topics. But it is interesting when you have those one-on-one conversations, especially with parents of young children, and they see some of these news headlines that are coming out about people coming here illegally and committing these crimes, and or also to people that are in general just sick and they're victimizing children. They have those same sentiments. And so I think that if you are going to continue to push forward in a moral society, that you need to ensure that people like this that are predators are taken off the streets permanently. I mean, I got the impression that he absolutely is supportive of anything in this sector. In fact, he's actually talked about this on the campaign trail. And so, in my opinion, I mean, he would be willing to sign an EO, but the fact is that it has to go through Congress first, so it would have to come to its death that way. Yeah.